We must thank Acharya for this wonderful exposition. It is very difficult to capture what he has said, but I must, in the interest of those who can not fully follow, but it's very important that we take the important points that he has made. Therefore, I will go ahead. Here we are discussing the Apaurusheyathva, that Vedas are composed is also a speculation, and this is not to be accepted. So, here the tradition says, what criterion do we have to say that it was not composed by anybody or that it was composed by somebody? Acharya says, supposing you don't like Apaurusheyathva and you say there is Paurusheyathva, then Vinigama Kanum. What is the criterion that you choose? Because there is no evidence on either side. The speculation is not required in objects that we can see before us. He said you can see that there is a white cloth there. Do you need somebody to ratify that? Do you need somebody to state the white cloth is there so that you can believe that it is the fact? No. What we can see directly and perceive and make up our minds for ourselves, we do not need external validity. But the Vedas are not like that. We ask in what criterion should we believe? So we say, can we understand what the Vedas say by direct perception? Can you access all that is taught in the Vedas in any manner? Can we ever access those things, come across those things and understand for ourselves? No. The next order of the means to cognition, the next is inference. Can we infer those meanings? No, it is not possible. Therefore, it has to be taught to us by some means. And that means is the Veda. To understand Dharma, it is only Veda. What does Veda establish? What are we to learn from all the Vedic utterances? In our discussions here, what do we need to establish in order to trust the Vedas or to uphold its validity? We need to establish Nithyathva, the Swatah Pramanya, and the Apaurusheyathva. And why should this be done? Because we want to defend the faith. We want to have the Vedas. We have many things to gain from the Vedas. We cannot say that they are not required because everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to progress in life. We want to know what is Dharma and Adharma and Brahma. Because without knowing Dharma and Adharma and Brahma, it is not possible to progress in life beyond basic animal existence. We cannot deny the dichotomy in the world. We cannot deny that there is great Vaichitriya or great variety where there is Sukha and Dukkha. Many pairs of opposites we find around us in the world. There is Punya and Paapa, and all these varying contrary pairs. In order to understand these things and in order to understand how they help us or do not help us, we need the Vedas. We need to know the difference between these issues. Now, it is not as if only educated people or the elite or some special club is concerned with Paapa and Punya. In our country, even the peasants, even the common man who may not be lettered, or for generations, people who are not even lettered, they know exactly what Punya is and exactly what Paapa is. They don't need a literate, educated person to tell them. But how does the whole culture know these things? Where do these concepts come from? How do we clarify our knowledge of these things? It is only through the Veda. Then what is Nitya? He explained that concept at length of what do we mean by Nitya. The sentences are a collection of syllables. So there is a proper sequence, there is a particular order. The same sentence is not permanent. I mean, we know that even in normal language, syllables are evanescent, as they are said. Because as I speak a sentence, even when you hear the last word of my sentence, the first word is gone. But how do you understand? There is short-term memory or whatever you call it in language. We do pick up and we are able to say that this is one sentence. But that sentence doesn't exist anywhere. If you think about it, we are not looking at the page having the sentence, but nobody can ever speak or utter or recite or chant anything. And you cannot say that this is a sentence or this is a word. It just doesn't exist. The same way for the Vedas, they don't have to exist as a body. But what is permanent here, what is Nitya here, is the Anupurvi. Varnanupurvi Vaijatyam Nasti. There is no difference in the way that it is chanted. The Vedas have come down in the same form for so many centuries, and it is said that if they are uttered in a different way, even with a little change or translated, they are not called the Veda. So the Pramanya, or the validity of the Vedas, is examined, and it is the Veda Vakyas are the Pramatvam of the Veda Vakya, that is Vaakyaartha. Should I explain that Vaakyaartha? Because they are sentences. The Vedas. Any sentence, if you hear a sentence, you know that somebody would have composed that sentence. Now, they go to the extent of even accepting, okay, maybe the alphabets, maybe the varnas, maybe the syllables are nitya. Because there's a, I, u, they are permanent. Because we may utter, we may stop uttering, but it is still there. What about the sentences? That is definitely artificially composed. Somebody has to compose those sentences. So this is a big argument for inferring that the Vedas have to be composed by somebody because they are in the form of sentences. Now, how does Mimamsa deal with that? You look at the Vakyas. There is a meaning to the Vakya. How can we understand that meaning? So there is a detailed examination, very fascinating examination and analysis of each of the means to cognition, the pramanas. How do we know anything in the world? We know by direct perception, which is the basic way that we get to know the world around us, by direct contact with the different sense organs, sensory perception. The second is sometimes using these sensory perceptions, we are able to understand more than what we are able to perceive through the senses. It's a very simple example, the famous example, when we see a mountain, when we see smoke on the mountain, we know there is fire. We say no smoke without fire. So we don't see the fire. It is not in contact with our eyes. We do not perceive the fire. We can only infer the fire through the smoke. So that is inference. Then we have similarity. Then we have language, shabda, verbal testimony, which is what we are dealing with. The Veda is accepted as pramana through shabda pramana. Then Mimamsa also has anupalabdhi, and I like to think that anupalabdhi is very useful in understanding atomic structure and etc. Even no, before that, before Anupalabdhi, we have Arthapati. Arthapati is when it is not inference because we don't know the full picture, so it is not like one-to-one. Concomitance is not there. But looking at some result, we are able to figure out, the human mind is able to figure out the reasons why that should be there. That is Arthapati. And I, like in understanding atomic structure and so many things, we use so much of Arthapati. The last is Anupalabdhi, where because we do not find something, we know that it is not there. Like a malaria test, you're looking for the malaria and it is not there, so you know that it is a negative test. That is about all the pramanas, 6 pramanas are examined, and we find that for the topics that are taught in the Veda, these are inadequate. And the other point is when we examine verbal testimony or language, whatever anybody says is always known by some other means. I can never say something that I didn't know through some other means. If I say that there is something happening outside, then if I say it is raining outside, then I know because I hear the rain or I have seen it. I can never say anything new and expect people to believe it or expect it to be the truth. There is no divining anything here. So here, we do not claim that anybody, a yogi or anybody, has divined anything. But the Vedas are there and they give us all the knowledge. That is the viewpoint. Yoga Shakti, etc. And there is nobody who has ever read the Vedas first. No first reader. No. The argument, the Purva Paksha says, just because there is no author and nobody is there to pinpoint as the author of the Vedas, how can you say that nobody has written it? This is like looking at an old well and saying that because we don't know who has dug the well many generations ago, there is nobody nobody has dug the well and it is there by itself. No, the same analogy does not hold for things that we see in the world around us. This issue is only for the Vedas. And also we must understand where we need to know something and where we don't need to know something. To use the water in the well, it is not required to know who had constructed that well. So we must also use some common sense in the information we seek and move on in a little more practical way. And for the Apaurusheyathva of the Veda and whatever it teaches, he said that supposing somebody says something, and he said, supposing he tells us that Dr. Pollock is on his way here to join the Sadas and face their questions, what would your reaction be? You would say, how do you know? Or who said? So it is automatic that we always say, even children, when somebody says something, they will immediately say, who said, who told you, how do you know? So this is what, when the Vedas tell us something, then the question comes, who said it, how do you know? So with the Vedas, there is no pramana antara virodham nasti. There is nothing to contradict what it teaches. And pramana antara jnanam api nasti. We cannot understand those things by any other means. So this is the manner in which the Apaurusheyathva is discussed and established. And even I went into this much detail. I know it's getting late, but to focus on the manner, the detailed manner in which these issues are addressed. There is not one issue that is left not addressed, and neither are they afraid to bring up any objections or any kind of objection which is accepted and clarified, because then the teacher sees it as the student has a doubt. He's having a doubt, so it has to be cleared. Yes, and he said if they were not valid, then there should be some reason for cheating, that is khyati, labha and puja. So either the person wants to tell you some false information for his own glory and become famous at your expense, or he wants something to gain materially at your expense, which is not uncommon at all. The other is puja or flattery. You want to patao somebody, so you soap them and you say a lot of false things in order to for sycophancy. And he says that when Westerners bring up these allegations on Apaurusheyathva, people don't read the text, they don't look into what the matter is. And the last point which I mentioned about the reference there, Uktam tu Shabda Purvatvam, with the sutra number, and Pollock quotes Nyaya Sudha in a particular page, and they have found that it is a totally wrong reference, and he is really deceiving his readers there, where, as we explained, when there is an argument and debate, there is an objection and then there is a solution. But he quotes from the objection portions and also gives the reference as if it is supporting his view. Thank you very much.